follow me outside into the
Welcome back to the Wild Rose Moonlight series. Tonight we have a special guest, George Schricker, the main man himself, has allowed himself to be himself in front of ourselves tonight for this special show. So let's head over to John Baylor. John, you ready to go? He's ready to go.
Hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of Moonlight. I'm here with the mastermind behind the moon, Mr. George Schricker, and hopefully
one of the masterminds.
The main
one
man.
of the masterminds. Yeah, that is true.
George Schricker.
I won't prevent you from giving credit to others.
Oh yeah, well, and everybody needs credit here tonight. We've got Ryan there, Ryan Meir on the board, and he's doing a great job. And Matthew Moser out there shooting pictures. Katie Smith has done advanced research, an associate producer. For Michelle Schricker, she proofreads everything I do, and then there's John. And Jennifer, who's brought the pizza. We can't.
Yeah.
We can't. You know.
She proofreads. George, I thought we were kind of improvising this.
It's a sham.
I'm improvising my questions anyways.
Yes. Well, that's okay.
Well, we talked a little bit about your different art forms and your performing background in poetry and in music.
And dance, too.
We didn't mention your... you had like a children's song of the year that we didn't mention.
Oh, Archaeopteryx. I wrote that for the Field Museum in Chicago. Yeah, they were having a big Archaeopteryx exhibit. Came in from Germany. The fossil came in from Germany. And, the Archaeopteryx is supposed to be the transitional species between kind of birds and dinosaurs, and reminiscent a little bit of a turkey, kind of lizard-like, and but had wings. And they have this fossil that is very, it's historical, and because it was one of the fossils that sort of was the proof, I guess, of the theory of evolution. And they were looking for transitional species,
right?
And this was a transitional species, and so it was a species found early on and recognized to be a transitional species, and so justifying Darwin's work. And I'm pretty sure they found it in Darwin's lifetime, but I could be wrong.
And then you got some coverage in the New York Times.
Oh yeah, they covered it in the New York Times, but that's not on that song.
No.
I wrote a song called "Losing Track of Time" on my Back on Track album, which was supposed to be a kind of a funny song, a send-up about the time zones in Indiana. You know how you're driving between time zones, and so it was. I got some radio airplay, and it was commissioned by a union, and so it was sort of interesting thing to write, but it was commissioned, and I really enjoyed writing it. It was kind of a country western send up.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to spend a little bit of time talking to you about writing songs. You're usually not writing on commission.
Good.
Now you're
I'll probably just talk about my influences.
Oh, that's fine. That's a big part of it. Now I tried to look for the spirit of the person and like how your life and your like your environment, the place you grew up, how that shapes you as an artist. And I really don't talk as much as maybe what another interviewer would about influences, but it's certainly a big part of who you are as a musician.
It doesn't matter what question you ask me.
Yeah. Well, I first was going to ask, it seems like you've produced a lot of artwork of various kinds in your life.
Yes.
And a lot of music as well. Have you written a large number of songs?
But I guess about 500 songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But you've written that already at your young age.
right. I consider myself to be unusual.
Yes.
However, so
Well, I consider you to be unusual too.
so
I
when
consider you to
find
be
people,
unusual as well.
I mean, I'd written
That's
like
why you're in the moon.
yeah,
That's why you're working tonight.
yeah,
Because you're mighty unusual.
yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
I came up with an album that I put together long before meeting you that was called "He Fell from the Moon to the Earth,"
Wow.
which was sort of, I guess, capturing an unusual person,
Yeah.
but a nice moon connection as well.
Right.
And I sort of asked you about your poetry writing. The songwriting started after you started playing guitar, right, and not before.
Right. I remember that DG jump that
Yeah.
I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I actually I realized that if I was going to learn the guitar, for every new chord that or move that I could make, I would write a song for it.
Right.
So I would have motivation. It
Yeah.
was the motivating factor of learning the song. So I'll play you a little bit of that, okay? The DG.
Yeah.
This is a song, the very first song I wrote on the guitar. I hadn't planned this. There she goes with long dark hair, beautiful smile, beautiful flowered underwear, beautiful dress, beautiful teeth, a beautiful smile underneath. Now that song is about...
Wait a minute.
That song is about the first girl I fell in love with.
There was not a chord change in there.
Oh.
You said.
Ooh. We think Georgie loves her. That's it.
Okay. All right.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Now you can tell your story.
I illustrated. So anyway, it was about my sister and how I fell in love in kindergarten, but my sister and her friends teased me about it because she was 2 years older.
Yeah.
And they would tease me on the way home and stuff. So, that was important.
Yeah.
Oh, closer to the mic. I'm supposed to be closer to the mic. Okay.
Okay.
I should know that kind of stuff.
I think that might be the secret to writing a lot of songs is the process you described. Whenever you're trying to learn something new, just put it in a song.
Yeah, put it in a song.
My dad would give me something to work on. He's a stringed instrument teacher, which I didn't really take formal lessons off of him, but still some of his role as a teacher came across in the way that he taught me to play guitar.
Sure.
And so he'd show me something, or sometimes he'd print something out for me and hand it to me and give it to me to work on. And I'd go through what he showed me, but then after I sort of got the lesson, then I'd see like, okay, the reason that he showed it to me was to understand this.
Right.
And when I got what the reason was, then it's like, okay, now I'll just make a song out of that.
Yeah.
Not all those are songs that I wrote out and preserved in any
I
way.
understand.
But it's still like that. That creating is a really nice way to learn.
Oh, it's all about. I mean, it's what we were the gift we were all given to learn with is our creativity. Our creative gift. I don't care what it is. I don't care what you do creatively. Everybody's creative, and wherever they put that creative focus, if they put it there and they're solid about it, and they commit themselves to it, it's going to pay off. It's going to, in terms of what you learn about yourself and the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the lesson of the creative process. I mean, think about it. Think about the creation itself is just something just absolutely amazing. So it would make sense that creativity, the gift that this gift we're all given to develop, is the tool that we're given to create our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we're all working hard to create ourselves.
Is that something that motivates you when you're writing? What I mean is, there's some people have a level of discipline that they put into their songwriting, and they want to come up with a song and they push until they've got it. And people might get an idea that sort of flashes on them, but it sounds like maybe some of what you're pursuing is just participation in the creative act.
Right. And my orientation is philosophical. My orientation to life is philosophical. So I'm interested in I think philosophy is really key to, I think there's a reason that it was one of the major humanities studies, because if you can orient yourself with a series of questions about who you are and what your life means on planet Earth, that's a great orientation, and it's an open orientation. To say, okay, what does this mean? What does this experience mean to me? And then ask yourself how that helps you orient your own life. And then you just keep, as these experiences come to you, you orient. And then gradually what happens is your life suddenly appears before your eyes. When you're young, it's like, I was a big confused mess. I was really confused, but I knew that if I kept my heart in the right place and kept going back to it, just what does my heart want me to do? It wasn't really anything else. Where's my heart leading me? Then that was the key thing. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but if I kept coming back to that. And I think that was just learning that through my mom and my dad. They were, they had big hearts. My mom especially had a big heart. So, I think my orientation to songwriting is through the heart. Mm-hmm. And so if my heart is speaking to me, then the songwriting is easy if I open up to it.
Right.
If I'm somehow shut down to it, then it's much harder. And so, and it's, Goethe said, we're shaped and fashioned by what we love.
Yeah.
We're shaped and fashioned by what we love. And that's all of what we love. So to me, the object of exploring your creativity is to be able to love more and more and more throughout, the human world as well as the animal world and the plant world, and that's a really important part. The songwriting or whatever you're doing creatively, I think, leads there to the heart. That's for me.
Yeah. So you've got these sort of questions of who am I and what's my purpose or my meaning, and what is it that I love and where is it that my heart's at. When you're in the act of writing a song.
Yeah. Okay.
Where does that enter into it?
Well, it's really interesting. Once I feel I have once the spark is hit, then it's like somebody just, lit a torch or something, lit a whole bunch of fuel. And it's my job to just climb on that train and follow it. Just follow that train, and it may mean, and the process can be different. Sometimes it's an explosion of ideas, and you're writing verse after verse after verse and verse, and then you go, oh, well, let's take a little bit of this and take a little bit of that in the editing position. Oh, okay, there's the kernel of the song, right? Mm-hmm. Other times, the whole thing just writes itself out, just boom, and you just have a very few little changes, and then there it is. So the process varies, I think, depending on how tuned up you are, and then also I think sometimes you're supposed to wrestle with the content. It wants you to wrestle. That's how we change. That's how we grow.
Right.
You ask yourself questions about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so there are lots of great challenges in the creative act, whatever it is, and those challenges I think are what make us.
Is there one process that you love more than other? Some of them you say it once a spark hits, it just keeps going and it just comes out of you, and some of them you're meant to wrestle with it.
That's interesting. One more than the other. No, I love too many things.
Yeah.
I love too many things. I see when I'm in a good place, I can see the ideas, almost visualize the ideas around me. And I also think creatively in terms of people. I'm a producer. So I think about how this person's creative energy works with this person's creative energy and that person's creative energy, and how do I get them to talk to each other, and how do I, so as a producer of things, I think like that. And that's kind of how I think with songs too. Whatever you're going to give me, whatever the process is this time, it's going to be different from the time before. It might be similar, but it'll never be the same.
Yeah. We're going to try to get 2 songs in
Oh,
here.
yeah.
And
Oh,
I
that's
think
right.
we better jump into it.
Okay.
But thank you very much for sharing.
All right. This is a song I wrote graduating from my MFA program last night. We were all in a plaza down across from the Brown Hotel in Louisville, Kentucky, where I learned to drink bourbon. And I've never been a big drinker, and I don't drink a lot, but I loved it. It was an inexpensive thing to do, was to buy one bourbon, and they'd put it on ice, and I could just sip it and sip it and sip it and enjoy the evening. And I was out on this plaza, and it was the last night, and I was thinking, what do I do with my MFA? Is this a practical thing that I did? But I was also wrestling with the time. I'm an environmentalist. I have been from my college days. I think it's crazy to destroy the environment. We depend on it. So a lot of things were happening. The oil spill in the Gulf was happening, and then it just seemed like. It's for long as I told you I'm a peace advocate. I'm not for war. I think we should study peace, and so it's very difficult for me to to hear that as a nation we've just been at war forever. And when we lost the draft, I think we lost something special, because all of a sudden it was more like a paid army instead of an army that had a blood sacrifice in it from the families, because then if your family's going to send you off to war, that family's going to be involved and in the history of that war. They're going to want to know what's going on, and they're going to want to know whether is this a good war, is that a bad war? They're going to be one involved. But once we got out of that, I think it really took a lot of accountability away from war making, and I don't think that was a useful thing. So I wrote this song to kind of share my feelings of the times. It's ironic how much it fits these times. And Ryan Meir is going to play with me.
Oh.
He's going to start this off.
Are we going to play a song?
Yeah.
All right.
The caressing breeze of springtime saunters through the night, sipping bourbon down in Louisville, searching for the light. 2 nymphs invade a fountain, sparkling into time. They romp and spray and sputter, sending shivers up my spine. And the cool air cuts open, feeling part of one and all. The grace of God goes peeking out from one more crack in the wall. Crack in the wall, crack in the wall. You sink into the sadness, hope you flip before you fall. Oh, the day like any other, the sun's a ripening ball. I was standing at the crossroads, looking through that crack in the wall. slice of time slips open. The ticks all fall from clocks. The ocean's overflowing. The mighty earth she rocks. A magnet spinning haywire. Pull, skip, then realign. The evening breaks wide open, freeing body and the mind. And the dancers twine and constellate the souls of one and all. A song is born in endless love, slipping through that crack in the wall. Crack in the wall, crack in the wall. Around each moment's corner, as the daylight stops and stalls. Each heart awaits the moment it's listening for the call. When the universe goes whispering, slipping through that crack in the wall. An oil slick is seeping, a junkie's needle in our veins. The wars go on a-raging, we refuse to face the pain. Banks collapse unsteady, fear is on the rise, and an army of the devil has us fixed within its eyes. The drums fade up, the cannons roar, you can hear the boot heel squall. We're all betting on the angels for one more crack in the wall. Crack in the wall, crack in the wall. You slip into the sadness, hope you flip before you fall. Oh, the day like any other, the sun's a ripening ball. I was standing at the crossroads, looking through that crack in the wall. Crack in the wall, crack in the wall. Around each moment's corner, as the daylight stops and stalls. Each heart awaits the moment it's listening for the call. When the universe goes whispering, slipping through that crack in the wall.
We're going to need to move on to the next song
I
pretty
know.
shortly because we took up a lot of our time. But I guess as some transition, what is the longing in that song, and then we can move into
Well,
what's
I
the
think-
longing in your next song.
I think, from the time I'd been 5, and actually 5 and also an avid listener and reader of the Gospels. I think the New Testament just transformed my life, and so in terms of if you want to read a sketch of a person who is demonstrating the path toward empathy, this is one of the best, sketches, because this man, Jesus, he was just incredible. He was incredible, a great leader, a great teacher, and those lessons were, taught to me in Sunday school, and I thought of them, and I thought they were just so opening. They opened me up, And I realized there's this different world out there, there's a different world, and we could all be, part of it if we just recognize our humility and are grateful for what we have, and also open up to the creativity that we've been given, and most importantly, open up to the creativity in others. That's the most important thing you can do, I think. The creativity in others. When you're bringing up your children or whatever it might be, open up to that creativity that's being born, and that's one of the greatest gifts I think you can give. So I'll do this song. This is a song about Mary Magdalene, and it's about, in a way, it's about unrequited love. I think it's my best song. It's inspired. There's no question about it. It's inspired by the great songwriter Leonard Cohen, who has been an inspiration to me since my college days. I had every one of his albums. I listened to him faithfully, and I think I was drawn to him because he's both a poet and a philosopher, if you listen to his work. And so he wrote a song called Joan of Arc, which was really a powerful song. And I listened to it over and over and over again. Wrote a paper on it in college, and I just loved the dialogue, the exchange, and what he was able to talk about in this longer story. It's his songs have a way of just expanding as you listen to them, and you listen to their meaning. It goes deep into the human psyche. And so, this is a song that taught me a lesson about the purpose of unrequited love. The wind blew north and Miriam plodded across the sand, living off the cactus, serving camel drivers' whims. She longed to hold the scarab so bright within her eyes. She felt that she was leaving part of her behind. The dunes gave way to hillsides, the hills to rocky crags. She trolled along the shoreline, gathered weeds and tiny eggs. That is where I met her. I had gone to skin and bones, standing knee-deep in the water, prepared to die alone. Noli me tangere, noli me tangere. Roll the stone from my heart before we must part. Noli me tangere, noli me tangere, tangere, me tangere. I slip beneath the surface,
She appeared upon the bow, lifted to her vessel, unction smooth across my brow. We headed out to open seas, her eyes a glassy stare. The liquor soothed my senses, I lay wrapped inside her hair. Seas foamed and spit around us, gales rose against the tide. We held tight against the current, the rolling rocky ride. She whispered through my fever and the darkening cruel moon. Hush, my love, and calm yourself, we're bound to be here soon. Noli me tangeré, Noli me tangeré. Roll the stone from my heart before we must part. Noli me tangeré, Noli me tangeré, tangeré, me tangeré. We landed in La Sense-sur-Mer. I had hopes for something more, but the memory of her savior kept me locked outside her door. She left her body swelling, something hidden in her soul. For whatever she had witnessed, it had gone and made her whole. You must wonder why I tell my tale. Is it pity, is it shame for failing her so perfectly? I cannot take the blame. I remain the humble servant, lost yet still alive. For one of us still seeks the Lord, and one of us survives. Noli me tangeré, Noli me tangeré. Roll the stone from my heart before we must part. Noli me tangeré, Noli me tangeré. Take the sting from my breast, let my touch be your test. Noli me tangeré, tangeré, me tangeré.
Beautiful.
I think you could write a college paper on that one too. There's a lot to unravel, and we don't have time for it. We are over time, but I'm still going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry,
since you
apologize.
set me up for it, what is the meaning of unrequited love?
Ah, okay. Well, love from a purely psychological perspective is a kind of positing in another person much that we recognize as having qualities that we need to develop in ourselves. So when we find a mate, we we often find someone who's different from us, who has qualities that we're really drawn to because they're qualities that we need to recognize in ourselves. And they carry those for us. And that's why we deeply love them for that. And so sometimes, obviously, you have the desire builds, right? But not every love can be requited. Not every love is requited. You run into people, even in friendships. You can, I mean, as you get older, you realize you're just falling in love with everyone around you because you realize how much they mean to you. After you've lived, you know, a certain number of years and people have stuck with you as your friends, you go, you know, we love each other. That's clear. You know, it's clear that there's a falling in love that goes with every friend and every person, but you just can't find that in everything. However, that unrequited love can be recognized in the self as the trajectory towards learning something new about who you are. And then it becomes a gift back to you. See what I'm saying?
I could stand to see more, George, but I don't think I can take enough time for me to unpack all of it.
Okay. All right. Oh, next week is David Hoppy.
Okay.
Okay, right.
Next 2 weeks, you mean?
Yeah, in
Okay.
2 weeks. Right.
Thank you very much again, George, for joining us, and thank to all of our listeners for tuning in and giving it a listen. We appreciate you guys, and hope to see you in a couple weeks.
Final episode with George Schricker. Thank you, John Baylor, for being a fantastic host. Thank you to Gibson Foundation, Gibson Insurance, Marshall County Community Foundation, and Marshall County Tourism for being a part of what makes this possible. Also cannot forget, George Schricker does more than just play beautiful songs for us here on the Moonlight series. It's a huge part of this. Matthew Bergmoser, Jennifer Reed, Howard Gibbs. We got Katie down there feeding us information we need. I am Ryan Muir. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.